Ago, we covered this crazy story about Nexon scamming its players for
Oh, hey, man, welcome, bro, welcome. You've now experienced Nexon and MMOs. Wow, man, it's like a passing of the torch. They completely gacha games, and yeah, imagine that, up gambling games. Imagine that, they have to be so scummy they can that up too. What, Nexons and MMOs now that people actually play? Which ones, bro? Like Dragon Raja? I think you can see one trailer of that on, I don't know, any YouTube video you click and know it's going to be a piece of shit. What other than MapleStory? Oh yeah. Is MapleStory even an MMO, bro? It's been a gacha game for years.
Well over a decade. And I'm not just talking about them making MMOs with cash shops and microtransactions. Yep. No, we all knew that was happening, and it's pretty par for the course in the genre. What they were doing was way worse. After a multi-year investigation, the Korean Fair Trade Commission announced that they found Nexon guilty of unfair rate manipulation for cash shop items in MapleStory. In that,
I cannot tell you how dangerous that is to do to your players, because already when the fucking pity rate, when the rates say 2.5% chance to get a 5-star, and I do 400 polls and I get nothing, the doubt in my mind from saying, oh, I got unlucky, will now be, oh, this company's shady as shit and they're lying. Because I'll be real, guys, I did 400 polls in Cookie Run Kingdom. Didn't get a single legendary, man. I almost took my own life. All right? We don't need companies that do this punk-ass bullshit.
That game, they sell these things called cubes. These are essentially loot boxes that grant power upgrades. You buy a cube, roll the dice, and are given a random reward depending on which cubes you purchased. This can include passive stat boost and gear upgrades. The odds of getting any particular outcome from a cube were published by Nexon
because I've heard of this before,
as has become industry standard for pretty much any game that sells.
Side note, holy Widowmaker is so fine, bro. Like, good lord, bro. That is one of the sexiest women ever created in video games.
Loot boxes. Nowadays, companies will just tell you like what the % chance you have of getting whatever it is you're looking for when you purchase some sort of a loot box. The problem in this circumstance, though, was that the actual odds were not only not as published, they were also regularly being manipulated.
That's insane.
And the rarest, most highly coveted outcomes, the thing that pretty much everyone buying cubes was hoping to get, that was literally impossible to acquire. Your odds were actually 0. So the investigation revealed that after began selling cubes, they progressively lowered the probability of getting an item upgrade, and they blocked users from—
That's just theft. That isn't rate manipulation. That is literally just stealing from your players. There's no way they recover from this shit.
From ever obtaining the most ideal stat boost combination. That most powerful role that players were wanting was never achievable. On top of doing this rate manipulation, they on several occasions made false public statements that no such changes—
Let me explain this to you in gacha terms that you guys might understand. All this cubes and all this bullshit. That's essentially before the weapon banner had a pity system that I got implemented in the Genshin Impact. You're welcome. Okay, Troko, add an applause to me. Yeah, after I got the weapon system added to Genshin Impact myself, I know, gotcha, Jesus, you're welcome. That would essentially be saying, oh yeah, you have a 75% chance to get Wolf's Gravestone from the weapon banner in Genshin Impact, except it's actually 0%.
Were occurring while those changes were in fact actively occurring.
These are like one of the two games from companies that the two companies that I'll never play a game from are Polarium and Nexon. Because the other thing is their game's reputation are so they're so that I'll be real, everybody knows how to play them regardless.
Investigation also revealed—
Oh, and also Netmarble for taking Nino Kuni and making it an NFT game.
While all of this was taking place, the Nexon had many back and forth conversations via internal emails about whether or not the company should disclose this information, but ultimately they decided against it because—
Full disclosure, I will be playing Raid Shadow Legends soon though, because I got a bag. I got a bag for that.
As of course they did. In the end, from the time MapleStory cubes were first made available for purchase in 2010 to when this investigation took place in 2021, Nexon had made roughly $420 million from cube sales alone, and as punishment from what was discovered, the Korean FTC fined Nexon $9 million, a measly 2% tax on their earnings. Surely this is going to stop them from ever doing it again. Now, that story alone is crazy, but
yeah, we heard about all this before. A slap on the wrist, they lose 2% of their total net worth. Wow, bro, 2%? Oh my God. Yeah, I'll never do it again when they made 13 just from that scam. It was literally a profitable scam. Like, they should have taken away all the money they earned times 5. Why the would they took less than what they got? I don't get it, bro.
Buried in there was something that I find even more concerning for the entire loot genre, for the entire MMO genre.
Which is
when
what?
making all this information public, the Korean FTC released many documents and details found during its discovery process, part of which was the reveal of a patent that Nexon holds in Korea pertaining to variable rewards based on player activity. Or in other words, the idea of changing the rate of item drops or the rewards gained from loot boxes based on the individual player. Now, I've always been aware that this sort of thing could exist and may be happening in the games that I've played, but seeing
because this whole content creator luck, streamer luck bullshit, this narrative that's been pushed for years, bro, if it's actually true and they pump up the rates of content creators before they do a sponsor to manipulate their audience and they think that the rates are better than they actually are, bro, that would be so shady.
Actual confirmation in writing of a company officially registering their ability and intention to do so. Man, as a fan of MMOs, as a fan of loot games, as a fan of ARPGs, I absolutely do not love the idea that this could be happening in the games that I'm playing today, because Nexon...
That should be illegal. I'm pretty sure it just is. Asmund played that last night. What do you think?
They might hold the patent for this in Korea, but they don't across the entire world, and that's where the concern comes in. Now, what exactly am I talking about? Well, let's take a look. The patent for dynamic rates includes the following. If a lot of user activity, decrease rates. Increase rates if users have low activity. Change rates based on player location. If gacha items exceed expected number or set amount, decrease rates. Change rates based on number of friends on buddy list. Change rates based on buddy list stats. Change rates for certain gacha items above some rarity. Change rates based on users' current items. So some of these aren't really that bad, and in fact, I would say there's parts of this that are totally normal and expected from MMOs, but a lot of them are pretty nefarious, especially the ones that pertain to items being purchased from the cash shop. Let's consider the implications here, starting with the most benign.
I hope everybody realizes just how scummy this is, because this makes me want to vomit, bro.
So number 3, that says change rates based on player location. This one's actually totally normal, like having the rates of item drops change based on your location in game. That happens in most MMOs, as far as I'm concerned. Here we would be talking about things like loot tables that are tied to certain areas. So for example, in the Elder Scrolls Online, there are item sets that will only drop when you are in a particular zone. These are referred to as overland sets. So when you're out farming in Rivenspire, you've got like a 1% chance or something of getting a piece of the next.
Is Elder Scrolls Online a good game yet? Because last time I played it, it was making me wait 100 days to get max mount speed, right? I love Oblivion. I love Morrowind. I love Skyrim. It's dog water. How the f do you f up Elder Scrolls, bro? Like, if Elder Scrolls 6 comes out and it's bad, dude, I'm going to lose my mind. Fallout 76 already broke my heart.
For a potent set from any of the mobs that you kill, but as soon as you leave that zone, that rate drops to 0.
Fallout Shelter.
You'll never get it outside of the zone. Or you've got the items that will only drop in particular dungeons or raids, and we're not just talking boss loot, but dungeon-wide loot tables. So for example, in World of Warcraft, you're only going to get set pieces of the Scarlet Mail set while farming mobs in the Scarlet Monastery. So
it really sucks, because we're saying the bad news of the future of MMOs, but like what current future do they even have? Like, it makes me depressed that my favorite MMO that I've played in recent years is classic WoW, a game that came out 20 years ago. Like, MMOs have been going downhill for so long. It's insane. And I really, truly don't understand what developers don't get. But like, I mean, I would probably say the best MMO we had in recent memory was probably New World. right? But New World's servers were so bad and so easily manipulated that it almost took the point out of playing the game. And at least for me, it killed the entire game. But like the farming system was amazing. Before that was probably what, BDO? And Final Fantasy was pretty good, right? But there's just so much goddamn story, and that's good for some people. It's not good for me. I just want to play a video game. I mean, the good news is, yeah, Lost Ark was pretty fun too for the beginning, but then Jesus Christ, it became so pay to win, it was nuts. Monster Hunter World's great, but it's not an MMO. I mean, the Riot MMO will be coming out soon. It'll be great, guys. I'm still going to play Brew Protocol. I need to see the death of my baby in my own hands. It's kind of like putting your cat down or putting your dog down. Like, you want to be there to inject a shot. You want to be there to experience their final moments, right? But like, I already know Blue Protocol.
Of MMOs do. But that, of course, is just one interpretation of that line, because the other one could be not that it refers to adjust rates based on player location in game, but that it adjusts rates based on player location in the real world. So depending on where you're located and the particular variation of the game that they want you to have, they will adjust the drop rates, the rates that you acquire currency, the rates that you acquire resources, how that may or may not be tied into changes into the progression depending on the part of the world that you're in, or maybe changes to the cash shop, so they might want to incentivize you to make purchases by reducing your rates in certain regions and not in other regions. That is the other more malicious variation and interpretation of this line of adjusting rates based on player location. But then we move on to checking numbers 1 and 2. Number 1 says if a lot of user activity decrease rates and the ability to increase rates for users with low activity. Now, these are pretty self-explanatory, but again, think of the implications. So if you play a game a lot, your odds of getting higher rarity items could then be decreased by the developer. Or if you take a break, when you return, your rates might get bumped up, meaning you're more likely to get better loot.
And I get so... Welcome players back who weren't playing as actively to give them something good. That way they're more highly incentivized to play. Like, it's so bullshit, bro. I'm so tired of all these companies focusing on the new player experience and netting new players rather than rewarding the ones who are there no matter what. It's like loyalty means nothing in 2024. It's so cringe. Patch after patch and all these gacha games, patch after patch for all these MMOs. There's nothing rewarding veterans. It's all about the players who just started. Go yourself, man. You know what the new players have? A content library of months. They don't need more. If they weren't going to play then, they're not going to play now. And if they play now, they're probably going to quit in 2 weeks. So just reward the players who are staying with your game. It's like a concept that's just lost on these.
Get why a developer would want to use a system like this. So if you've got someone, for example, who stops playing your game for some extended period of time, when they return, you want to give them incentive to stick around. So yeah, why not shower them with legendaries, drop a best in slot stat roll on some items that they get, make them feel really good so they want to keep on playing. And hey, in that circumstance, if you're that player, that sounds pretty great, right? But boy, does it suck for anyone actively playing the game, because the flip side of this coin is that the longer you play, they could potentially make it less likely that you get good items, literally punishing the most dedicated people playing the game. This would also be an effective way for a developer to pad out playtimes, for example. Like when you see someone who is clearly dedicated, they're playing the game every single day for multiple hours, why not dial back their rewards just a little bit, and they may very well end up playing for longer. That is, if they don't just quit out of frustration, and finding that balance would be the key, right? And maybe that explains why I got a nearly perfectly rolled bow on my Falconer like 10 hours into playing Last Epoch. But in the 40 hours that I played since, every other one that's dropped has sucked, and I've only found a single version of this bow with any legendary potential, and it had nearly the worst possible stat rolls it could have. Maybe if I stop playing for a few weeks, I'll finally get the good drops that I'm looking for when I return. Am I assuming that's happening in Last Epoch?
Because then this bull like RNG manipulation on artifacts will actually become true, and like it's not about playing the game anymore, it's about manipulating the way that the systems view your character as, rather than actually just playing the game. Like, okay, so then if I stop playing for 17 days, I'll be able to increase my odds by 0.58%, and if I have 27 people of my friends, my rates will go up. Like, bro, how does anybody think this is a good idea? Like, how is this public?
No, not necessarily. I assume it's probably just part of the RNG experience, but now we've got that seed of doubt.
The RNG experience. Hey, that's slots for you. Hey, that's Vegas, baby, said for every MMO of the future.
Knowing that it's possible these rates could be manipulated based on player playtime. We've got Nexon with an active patent for that exact thing in Korea. Could other developers?
They have a patent. It's not even like a hearsay anymore. It's like, yeah, we're doing this. What are you going to do? Why would anybody play a game by Nexon? Genuinely. Like, I just don't get it, bro. Chinese games are exceptions. They are required to disclose these gacha rate information. If not, the government takes action. Well, I would prefer that would be every game, to be honest.
Be doing it in other games and other parts of the world that are being made. I mean, it's possible. We can't say it's not possible because clearly we know people can do it. It's within the realm of possibility. And this is where things get a little tricky, right? Because obviously this could all just be chalked up to RNG. Me not getting a great bow for my falconer in 40 hours. It could just...
Yes, it could be RNG, but the fact is that the president, not president, Obama doesn't do anything. Joe Biden's asleep in the White House, okay? He just hasn't done shit in years. Why hasn't he paid off my college debt? Regardless, it's about the president, where every single player is going to think, okay, was this me getting unlucky, or is this the game just me?
Just be random luck of the draw. It is,
which, you know what, guys, probably isn't a good thing to have your players think, my opinion.
Probably just random luck of the draw. I'm not a conspiracy theorist here, but we have to talk about the possibilities, and that's where the issue lies. Loot in these games and MMOs and ARPGs and looter shooters, it is random by design. You get random drops with random stats and affix rolls, adjust.
And I want to make it very clear, looter shooters are very good. I love those. I think the RNG is good, personally. Okay, because I don't like when I play a game, I get the gun that's the best, and I think, well, now I can't get anything upgraded ever. I do like farming for slight upgrades. Okay, I think looter shooters are great.
By the in-game circumstances that you're partaking in, like how you're going to get better rewards and they're going to occur more frequently as your level gets higher, as you push into harder content.
Makes sense.
Types of content that you're doing. Some combination and variation of all of these things will affect the loot drops that you're getting. It is part of the genre. Randomness has always been in these games. It is built in. But knowing that there could also then be this extra added layer where a developer is punishing.
Asmon played the beta? Yeah, he said it was mid, from what I remember.
You, not based on the content that you're doing, the difficulty of the content, the known mechanics that are within the game, but just based on your frequency of playtime. That's not really great. I mean, I guess it's not bad for the person who takes a break and then gets better loot when they return, but it is pretty for the users who are playing daily and then are being rewarded with worse odds, with worse loot drop.
Yeah, but they don't give a shit about you. They don't. It's like being in a marriage where, like, all of a sudden your wife treats everybody better than the one who's been with her for years, right? It's like being in like a restaurant, right? Once they know they got your business, they don't give a anymore. It's like a dog. They don't give a about the guy. They don't give a about the guy who's been taking care of them for years. They only give a about the person who gives them the treat. Okay, that's why I like cats, because they're loyal. These companies, they don't have loyalty. They just say, how do we get more money from these new and you'll keep sucking my dick regardless. Get the back over there and grind the game because you're addicted. These new players are all they care about. It's so cringe.
And just knowing that developers could be doing this, yeah, I mean, it kind of sucks the wind out of the sails, right? It's sort of like get these games that have built-in RMT. So if I'm just farming for gold and resources within a game, most of the time I'm under the assumption that this is just part of the game playing experience. Everything is good. I will farm gold for hours so long as the game is mechanically satisfying and interesting and I'm enjoying the experience and I'm working towards some sort of a set goal. That's just part of playing the game. But yeah, the second a game has officially supported built-in RMT, that veil gets lifted a bit.
RMT means real money transactions for you guys who don't know.
Like when I can see, say it costs for 1,000 gold, you can get that for $10, but it takes 5 hours of grinding in game to farm 1,000 gold. At that point, I just kind of feel like I'm working for $2 an hour. I don't.
Oh, 1,000,000%. When you have all these mother say, oh well, you can beat this game free to play. Oh, I don't need to spend money. But then it's like, okay. So every 16 hours of grinding, you get $1 worth of paid currency. Like you're literally just working. You're working so much for nothing. Like at that point, you're just an idiot. Like if I can spend $5 and get the work that you would have to do for 2 weeks, I'm not going to grind for that. I'm just not. I'm just literally not. And this is a very good point to bring up, is that when your grinding hours towards paid hours are so imbalanced, it's going to make players who are actually grinders feel like morons unless they're below room temperature IQ. And that's why you need to balance out those two aspects very heavily.
Don't love it. And the similarity between these two things here is that it's just really demotivating. The same as farming gold for $2 an hour in games that have RMT, or knowing that the game could, the longer you're playing, reduce the odds of you getting good gear. That can sure really ruin the experience. And then we've got numbers 5, 6, and 8, which are sort of along these same lines. Change rates based on the number of friends on your buddy list. Change rates based on your buddy list stats, or change rates based on the user's current items. Hey,
this guy has no friends. He can't tell anybody. He's a loser. He has no way to complain. He has no friends. Give him 0% rates. The guy, hope he kills himself.
Kind of mesh together and follow the same general idea as above. They're making changes just based on things pertaining to you, but not based on the game's built-in mechanics. It's so like too many people on your friends list, sorry, you're gonna start getting worse loot. If you have really bad loot on the plus side, we're gonna start boosting you up. When it comes to the positive implications of this, we're all gravy, but it's the other side that just things get a little scary. And the absolute worst stuff, though, really, is the dynamic rates as they pertain to cash shop items. So that's number 4 and 7. If gacha items exceed expected number or set amount, decrease rates, and also changes rates for certain gacha items above some rarity. That one's pretty explicit. I assume that's happening. But number 4, boy, if you're opening a ton of loot boxes and you get a few good items in a row, hey, guess what? They're gonna nerf your rates, which means if you buy more boxes, you should expect to get garbage for a while. Now, if the implementation of this one is as it sounds,
because then that's gonna make getting lucky feel bad. That's gonna make being unlucky feel bad. That's gonna make doing something good feel bad. And that's gonna make something, when it's bad, feel even worse. So it's literally, it's not even a double-edged sword at that point. It's like a quadra-edged sword. It's pretty much a death ray at that point. Like, how can any company think that's okay? Like, this information is public, bro. Like, no one's gonna want to play this shit.
Is as I assume it is. I mean, that should be illegal, right? Like, I get it. It's kind of similar to gambling. Sure, in gambling, you've got low odds for every single pull of the slot machine, but sometimes you win, and that's great. But I assume it is super illegal and against gambling laws to decrease the rates of someone once they win. I mean, that sounds illegal, but legality or not, I'm not here to really argue about it. That it's pretty crappy. If a game that you're playing has this mechanic,
it doesn't matter whether it's illegal or not. Like, I hate when people say, oh, well, it's legal, bro, so it's fine. Okay, there are tons of things that are legal that are f***ed up. Like, there's tons. Oh, yeah, well, it's not illegal. Okay, well, it's still terrible. I mean, fuck, bro. Out of all the issues in the world right now, our Congress is trying to ban TikTok. It's not like the legal system in the government or this be-all, end-all of actually knowing what's good and what's bad for the world. Okay, our world is run by retards. We all know it. We all know it. It's just like your job. You work for retards. The world is run by retards. Like, and these dumb use these mental gymnastics to justify just because it's not technically illegal. It's so irritating.
Sure are gonna want to know about it so that you don't go
TBH, that TikTok man ain't all that dumb. Yeah, enjoy your YouTube shorts of that one guy going chocolate syrup, sprinkles, chocolate, perfect. Yeah, that's that you like. Yeah, enjoy your YouTube shorts, man. That shit is terrible.
Go spending money after getting a good item to be almost guaranteed to get worse loot for some extended period of time. I mean, hey, if you needed any more reason to avoid spending money on loot boxes and gacha items, knowing that there's a chance that if you win some, you're guaranteed worse odds going forward, that sounds like as good of a reason as any. This whole thing is really complicated and frustrating because these games, as I said earlier, they've always had a lot of randomness involved. It's part of their nature. Random loot, random stats doled out at random intervals.
Good when used correctly.
Loop. It is a big part of the reason why a lot of us play. The game has to feel fun and be satisfying to play, but then the draw of that loot is what keeps you playing. You keep pushing that button knowing that good stuff will come eventually. You just don't know when. I mean, it's an entire entire genre of games built on variable rewards. That's the ongoing motivation. I just think what's so frustrating here with this story is just what we don't know. We've got all of these different loot games, which are some of my favorite genres, MMOs, ARPGs, looter shooters, and we simply don't know how many games, which games, what combination of these are utilizing these dynamic variable rewards based on player activity. Like the examples that we've outlined here, some combination of them could be used in a few games, could be used in a lot of games, or could be used in most of the games in the genre. That's what's frustrating. We just don't know, and we really can't know. I guess on the plus side, you might get rewarded when you're first starting out, when you have bad gear, if you don't have a lot of friends on your friends list, or when you return.
Who cares? The new player, dude. Okay, the reason why the new player experience doesn't matter is because, like, if you get lucky early game, who cares? Like, the game's gonna be fun because it's new. It's more important for games to be even more fun the further you progress, because once the honeymoon phase is over, if it is exactly that, the honeymoon phase, then people are just going to quit the moment they get to end game. People are going to quit the moment they get to mid game. Like, everything will be fun for a bit the moment that you start it. So why worry so much about that when it's more important about keeping the players who have started the game engaged rather than only getting new players who are just going to quit?
And like I said, in those circumstances, when implemented in that way, these dynamic variable rewards are fine. They're nice even. They're welcome. But the negative side is that possibility that if you play a lot, you're punished with worse odds and will be getting worse loot. Or if you fancy yourself spending money on loot boxes and gacha items, the idea that every time you pull big, the next X amount of dollars you spend are almost going to be thrown out the window because they are reducing your chance of getting anything good from that point forward.
That's why Monster Hunter is so perfect. No, I 1,000,000% agree. Like, Monster Hunter is one of the most, I mean, to be honest, it is one of the greatest games of all time. And the new player experience almost feels identical to endgame experience because it progressively gets better and better and better and better. And the player feels better and better and better. So they're able to fight these bosses that are harder and harder and harder and continue that change of the difficulty naturally growing with the player naturally growing. And then when a player goes back to fight the first boss they struggled with, they'll think, oh my God, I'm so much better now, because they actually are. And like, they know the further they hunt, the further they go, the cooler they're going to get, the better rewards they're going to get. And it's just good. It's a good natural growth system.
Which is a major yikes. This whole thing really makes me think that there should be way more transparency. We should demand way more transparency as to how drop rates are calculated in a lot of these games and how or when those drop rates can change. This matters a whole lot less when it comes to just like, what loot am I getting as a player and how often am I getting loot. It is frustrating in that it kind of, it certainly impacts like the motivation to keep grinding. If you know for sure that a game is using a system like this, punishing you for the more often you play, I imagine that's going to kill the desire for a lot of people to keep on playing. But that's just the thing, unless something happens that forces developers to share that information. We don't know. We probably won't know unless there's some big investigation by someone like the Korean Federal Trade Commission when what they did with Nexon. We won't know. We won't know which games, what games are using these systems and how many of them they're using. But yeah, it doesn't matter as much for loot rewarded from playing the game, but I certainly feel it's a pretty big deal when it pertains to items purchased from the cash shop. This idea that your rates will change depending on if you score big or something when you're buying loot boxes. I don't know about the legality, but yeah, sounds pretty garbage.
Okay, at that point, it's essentially just becoming a hard pity system that's guaranteed, to where you are not allowed to be lucky over this. You are not allowed to be unlucky over this. So then at that point, just make it, you pay $100 and you get this item. Because that's just what it is. You play for 5 hours and you get this item. Because when you make the RNG that balance in either direction, like, well, then it's there's no RNG anymore. It's just play for this extended period of time and you get this item, which can be fine, but it also takes the excitement out of it. I don't get how companies don't get this.
I think at the very least, this should give you some pause when you consider playing any game developed by Nexon, MapleStory, Vindictus, or the upcoming game The First Descendant, besides their history with the changing...
I mean, I'll be real. I'm still going to play Stellar Descendant because her ass is insane. But other than that, I'm not going to play MapleStory.
Rates of the cubes and making certain outcomes literally impossible. We know they have done this. It has been proven, and they were fine for doing so. There's a chance that could also be happening in their other games. But that stuff aside, this whole dynamic rate manipulation.
I mean, I don't know who that chick is, but goddamn, bro, you would need 10 people to pull me out of that girl's ass, bro. I would be the shit out of that chick, bro. Oh my God. I mean, anybody who could pull my dick out of that would be crowned the next King Arthur. Okay? That would be insane. Good God. Boys, am I crazy? First to send on that Stellar Blade? Yeah, you're right. Stellar Blade 2, though. The president remains. Holy fuck. They pull me out of that, call me the one true king. Anyways.
We know Nexon has the patent for it in Korea.
I'm sorry, guys. Testosterone got my brain f***ed up, boys. I'll say it.
And now we know, if we weren't sure already in the past, that it is something that could very well be applied to other games that we play, other loot games. And if that is happening, I mean, I sure would love to know. Or maybe I wouldn't, because maybe that would just mean I wouldn't want to play games that are implementing systems along these lines. And again, look, randomness, it is part of the genre. I just feel like there has to be an established baseline of understanding of where that randomness comes into play, how and when it changes. We get better loot drops when we push higher levels, when we push harder content, when we go into different types of content, when we farm in different zones, when we farm different dungeons. That is all an established understanding, and I think most of the player base goes into playing these games knowing that these things exist. It's really more so the punishing side of it, the punishing for frequency of playing, the punishing for how good your gear is, the punishing for the number of people on your friends list. If there are a lot of loot games using systems like that, don't love it. Absolutely do not love it. That's going to do it for today's video, though. Thank you, as always, for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next one.
It's a really good video, and I encourage you guys to go subscribe to this channel. But the problem is, it's kind of just like every company wants to punish their players for having fun. And it's just cringe. Thanks for liking, commenting, subscribing.